Hey guys, so today I want to talk about the endgame update that is coming in patch 0.5. Now, we all know that this upcoming update is going to be making a huge change to our endgame and hopefully fleshing it out a lot more to give the game a little bit more depth and longevity. Now, for this, I would really like to see three things at the minimum. Of course, I'm sure GG has a lot of ideas on their mind, but these three things at the minimum are what I would like to see from this patch. The first one is, of course, a rework to the Atlas skill tree that we have in front of us. The second one is going to be a rework to the towers themselves. I know they've been reworked before, but I'd like to say maybe not rework, but added function to the towers. And the third one I'd like to see them do updates for is going to be the Infinite Atlas and changing things up there to make it just a little more, intuitive, quality of life, things like that. But to start off, let's go talk about the Atlas skill tree. Now, we have the Atlas skill tree in front of us, and this, I would say most people would agree, is fairly low impact. A lot of people don't really see the Atlas skill tree as being something that changes our experience that much, and in general, most of the things that you put points into, especially in this middle tree, unless you're doing something like essences, strong boxes, or whatever, it really feels like it doesn't do much. Like, if you put me to sleep, and then you took off all the nodes on this Atlas skill tree outside of, let's say, these essence ones that I have on here, I probably would not be able to tell you the difference between a map with the skill tree and a map without the skill tree. And I've been really thinking about the reason why this feels that way and potentially what we can do to fix it. So I was thinking, especially as I've been playing Path of Exile 1, the reason why Path of Exile 1 skill tree feels so good is because, and we have it in front of us right here, the Path of Exile 1 skill tree really allows you to edit and customize the way that you want to play based on the league mechanic that you want to do. For example, this Atlas skill tree is going into harvest, so they are going heavy into harvest nodes. Now, if you didn't have these harvest nodes, which is a league mechanic, right? It's like breach, ritual, whatever, you would not be able to see this league mechanic as often as you do right now. Like right now, this skill tree has every other league mechanic blocked off, and then harvest is the only one that you see. It's essentially kind of like if you were to go and take a tablet, put it in the tower, you always see that league mechanic, right? Well, in Path of Exile 1, you don't need to do that. You don't do that with like scarabs, for example. You can, and it will make it, there are scarabs that do that. But in general, people just use the skill tree to take nodes like this to increase the likelihood that you're going to see this mechanic in your map. So it's right here. Let's see, this one right here. Your maps have 10% chance to contain the Sacred Grove, right? That's the harvest mechanic. So that is kind of the reason why this feels so impactful. And on top of that, they have some really meaty nodes that change up the way you play this endgame mechanic. For example, let's take a look at harvest right here. It says harvest crops on your maps only contain tier 1 plants, and now harvesting crops on your maps have a chance to upgrade the tier of plants of different colors. So basically, it changes it from like let's just go take a look at what's the best plant, to a small little mini game that allows you to like, hey, I'm going to take these ones to upgrade ultimately these other ones. So it really changes the way that you are playing the end game mechanic in a way that you wouldn't get if you weren't allocating points into that, and you do have to make that choice. Now, in Path of Exile 2, we have these little tiny trees out here for each of the league mechanics, and you're able to get points for all of these and max the points out for all of these. So, in an essence, at the end of the day, unlike the Path of Exile 1 tree, you can allocate points into every one of these and have them be juiced at a baseline. I understand the thinking behind this with GG. They really want to make it so that everybody can choose what type of mechanic they want to run. Like, it's not like you have to respec your tree every time you want to change mechanics. It's like, hey, maybe one day I want to do breach. I already have the tree set for that. All I need to do is change the tablets. Maybe one day I want to do ritual. I already have that set. Like, I like that idea, but at least right now, the way that they have it implemented, it really feels like, yeah, sure, everything is at a baseline decent, but there's no real way to super customize the game if you, let's say, want to be that guy. Like, I want to be the ritual guy. I just want to go all in ritual. And there's not really a way to do that outside of the tablets, which are similar to scarabs in PoE 1. So it's like, PoE 1, you have the tablets in place on top of having the tree being very impactful, whereas in PoE 2, you only have the tablets in place. So how would I like the Atlas tree to be changed? Well, first off, something that I noticed is that one of the reasons why this main Atlas tree feels not that impactful is because essentially all of these nodes are not really anything that does much. If we look at the nodes that we have in this tree, they are actually pretty similar to these little tiny nodes that we have on the Path of Exile 1 Atlas, which if you've played Path of Exile 1, you know that these nodes, while somewhat impactful, like you do want to get these nodes, they're not something you're going to be really investing too many points into. What you really want to do is invest in these outer nodes and also kind of these like branching nodes inside, right? All of these kind of nodes are like somewhat travel nodes, and you get them while you're traveling to other things. So it really feels like our Path of Exile 2 tree here is just an entire tree worth of travel nodes. And the only thing that's really impacting anything are kind of these ones out here. And yeah, you know, you have the essences, you have the shrines, strong boxes, rogue exiles, whatever, right? Those do have some impact, but in general, they are not all that impactful for most situations. I'd say that the rogue exiles maybe are a little bit better since the Heart of the Wells did get introduced into the game that made this better. But before that, they were pretty dang garbage and most people weren't even investing into them. So I think that that's why this tree in general doesn't feel that good. It's just not impactful at all because I don't think it's designed to be impactful at the moment. But I do think that these note trees out here are relatively impactful. Like I said before, though, it is the fact that you have all access to all of them at once that make it feel like they're not impactful because everybody gets it. But an idea I had was to make it so that, yeah, you don't have to change this tree by all that much. I do think the power level of this tree could be a little bit better, but I don't think that's necessarily the whole problem. I think that it's fine to keep it mostly the way it is, but I do think that changing these outer trees is going to be the way that we can actually make this tree and this atlas feel a lot more impactful and a lot better. So right now, all the trees have 8 points, 8 points, 8 points, 8 points, and this tree in the middle has 40 points. Well, what I would like to propose is that all of these atlas trees for the league mechanics themselves need to be like expanded upon. Like I would like to see these atlas trees be like, instead of, I don't know how many nodes there are right now, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, right? Like 16 nodes. I'd like to see them to be like 40 nodes or something like that. And then what you can do is, of course, you still do have these skill points down in the middle, but let's make there to be more skill points out in this center one. And what you can do is you can choose to allocate some of these center skill points into these outer trees. Now, it's only going to be a limited amount, so you're not going to be able to invest it fully into every single one of these trees. Of course, we do want a baseline for all these trees to be decent, so I do think like this 8-point baseline is something that we should have, because I do like the idea that no matter what mechanic you're running, it doesn't really feel like there is a mechanic that is like, oh, this is a dead mechanic. But I would like to see it to be where you can actually fully invest into one mechanic and make it so that like, hey, I am going to be the breach guy. So I'm going to take some of these nodes here, some of these points in the middle, and invest it into this tree and make it so that I have more points in this breach tree compared to all these other ones. That way, it can actually feel like you have some agency for what you want to do. Of course, you can just invest all your points into the center tree, but I think most people will probably choose to invest some of these center tree points to these mechanics. So overall, again, being able to have more of these points from the center tree, but also be able to invest them, like if you want to invest these center tree points, at least some of them, into these outer tree nodes. And you're going to expand these outer trees to be much, much bigger than they are right now. So that's how I think they should approach the Atlas tree. But, you know, they can go many, many different ways, right? That's just one of the ideas that I think could be pretty cool to approach it with. Now, that's the Atlas tree. The second thing that I think that they could change, and I would like to see them to change, is going to be towers. Before, towers were something that was core to the gameplay. If you didn't go to a tower and juice your maps around it, you were getting nothing. You got no loot. You did not have any of the league mechanics in these areas. It was like a requirement. But now the only reason why you would go to the tower is if A, you want to put a grand project in something, or B, see the map a little bit more, right? Because all these towers do give vision. So there still is a reason to do it, but in my opinion, that's kind of a flimsy design. Like, there's not really that much of a reason to go to there. It's like, I don't ever feel motivated to go there. But if they made it so that there are more things you could do on the tower, that would be amazing. First off, everybody, at least this league, anybody who's doing maps, I think for the most part is using a grand project whenever they're traveling, because grand projects are fairly accessible this league, and grand projects, in my opinion, are kind of the only way to really fully enjoy traversing the map, because what it allows you to do is, one, traverse the map quicker, but also two, it allows you to pick and choose between the maps that you like and don't like. Like, you can see that when I am traveling, I'm doing like, okay, this map is great, but I don't want to do these maps. Oh, I like this one, but I'm not going to do any of these, right? Because that I'm just picking and choosing the maps that I think are the best, because there are some really garbage maps in this game. So I would like them to see one, I would like to see them make it so that grand projects are baseline. Like, no matter what, you don't need to put a grand project tablet into it. The moment you go into tower and you complete it, everything in that area is going to be accessible. Everything gets grand projected by default. I think that would be such an amazing change. But I think that on top of that, there should be a little bit more agency. So the first thing I would like to see is something called a terraforming tablet. Now, for me, I like running a lot of the maps in the desert area. I really like Confluence. I like Deserted. I like Savannah. I like Oasis, right? Those are some of the Rust Bowl is also really good, right? I really like those maps. But at the same time, I sometimes have to go really far out of my way to look for desert places. And I'm just like, why not just make it so that these biomes that I don't like the forest areas, or maybe it's like the citadel areas with all the sun temples and stuff, like this area, right? I hate all these maps. Why don't you make it so that when I hit the tower in the area, everything in the radius, if I put like a terraforming tablet in there, it would change the entire area's biome into the desert biome, and all the maps there will change into desert maps. I think that would be really cool, in both keeping the theme of the different biomes that they have, but also give you a little bit more agency about like, hey, these are the maps that I like to run, and this is how I'm going to make it so that I get to run a lot of these maps. So one, of course, again, the baseline grand project, and two, a terraforming tablet. The third thing that I'd like to talk about is going to be like a little bit of a cool idea. I don't think that this needs to be implemented, but it's just something that I thought was a really cool thing that I just randomly came up with. So we have corrupted areas in the map, right? The areas where you have the corrupted nexus, and then you have to go kill the nexus, and then you get like a cleansed area. I'm trying to find one right now on my atlas. I can't see. Oh, there it is. Here's one, right? This is like a corrupted area. And when you beat the nexus, you get a cleansed area that will have, the fracturing orb drops, right? Well, it kind of does suck sometimes to have to look for these corrupted areas. And yeah, it's all about exploration, right? So I don't want to like remove the idea of exploration. I still want, like, I know GG still likes the idea of exploration, but what would be really cool? If every single time you completed a corrupted nexus, it had a chance to drop something called like the seed of corruption or something like that. So that the next time, if you go to an area like this one right here, this tower, you could drop the seed of corruption inside of the tablet slot, and everything in the area becomes a corrupted zone. And then that would also spawn a corrupted nexus. So if you wanted to turn that into a cleansed area, then you could go and kill that corrupted nexus and basically spawn your own corrupted zones and cleansed zones. Of course, again, it would be a chance drop, so it's not like it just completely removes your need to look for these corrupted areas. But if you wanted to, if you had the money to, let's say later on, you just keep buying these seeds of corruption and doing it yourselves. Or if you didn't want to buy it, you could just continue to traverse the atlas and look for these areas, and also potentially farm for these seeds of corruptions and sell them on the market yourself. I think that would be a really cool idea. And that's just kind of like a little, fun thing that I thought of. But at the baseline, grand project for every single tower, and also having something called like a terraforming tablet. That would be really cool. Now, the third thing that I mentioned for the kind of infinite atlas is that while I do like the Infinite Atlas, I do think that it should stay in the game. I think that navigating this Infinite Atlas right now is so tedious sometimes, especially when you're like trying to look for things. Like maybe I really want to look for a Confluence map because that's my favorite map in the game. Well, I know I have Confluence maps around, but unfortunately, I'd have to like scroll through everything and hover over everything to be able to see where the Confluence map is. Of course, there are some like little, landmarks right here. Like this is always a spring map with this little kind of, I don't know, clay tower thing, and headlands always look like this with a little arch in the back. But it can be a little bit difficult sometimes. And also, if your atlas is really, really big, it can be really hard to find it. So it would be great if, of course, they had some sort of search function. At the baseline, I think that that would be really awesome. Another thing is, let me zoom out a little bit more. I know that, there are issues with like potential like rendering. Like, let's say I go here, right? If I zoom out too much, it's going to cause it so that it takes a long time to render everything. So maybe like when you zoom out, it's just for like traveling around, and it gives you like a simplified version of the atlas, so it doesn't have to render everything like that. And then when you zoom in, then it starts rendering that area more detailed. So I do think that that could be a really good idea that could just make navigating the towers or the atlas a little bit more bearable. Just a zoom out function and a search function. I know that GG has said that they were going to bring in a search function, but I do hope that they do bring it in for 0.5. Now, the last thing on this list I want to talk about is going to be the first clear of your arbiter. Now that we have it so that you can finally start getting the rare tablets when you kill your arbiter, like the first arbiter of Ash, it is a little bit annoying that sometimes it can be a little bit hard to find citadels. Personally, I've never had that issue too much, but I know a lot of people do have issues finding their first citadel and say they have, can't even find it when they're level 90. And there's enough people to where I'm like, maybe it's not just the people, maybe the game is also preventing these people from doing so. At the end of the day, it is kind of RNG, right? There is a little bit of an RNG factor to be able to find these citadels. So what I would like them to do is just implement so that if you've gotten through a certain number of corrupted nexuses, then you start getting this quest line that's like, hey, here's your Arbiter of Ash quest line. And now every single time, like the first quest could be like, kill the Iron Citadel, right? And then after you kill the Iron Citadel, it says kill this Copper Citadel. But for these Citadels, you can just talk to the NPC in your hideout. Let's say, I don't know, maybe it's an Alva or something like that. And then she will spawn portals on your map device directly for you to just go get to the Iron Citadel or Copper Citadel. It will be like an instanced version of those like citadels. That way it could be deterministic, so you don't have to look for them. And then after you're done killing all these instance tutorial versions of the citadels, then it sends you directly to Arbiter. So it gives you your pieces, and then now you can go and put it into your map device back at home, into the monolith. Let me see, right here, right? This monolith right there. So it just lets you go in there, gives you the pieces, and you just go in. I think that that would be such an elegant solution to make it so that you wouldn't have to go and kind of fumble around, and look for these citadels and not be able to find them. But yeah, those are the things that I would really like to see from the game in 0.5 to make it, in a state that I think is good. I know that there's a lot more that they could do with the end game, and they probably will do a lot more. But I do think that at the minimum, those are things that I would like to see. But let me know what you guys think about my ideas. Do you like them? Do you think they are good? Do you think, they're not great? And are there any ideas that you'd like to suggest for grinding gear games to put in patch 0.5 as well? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please, the best way to let me know is by hitting the sub button. It's completely free and it supports the channel. And also, I stream on twitch.tv/MeSoXure every single night. So I'd love to see you guys there. But if not, hopefully I see y'all in the next video. All right, guys. Peace.